Hello, I'm Kathy Sear, and here's 3 things that I wish I knew when I was 20. Number 1, do what makes you happy. That's do what makes you happy, not what makes other people happy, not what your friends are doing, not what your parents want you to do, and definitely not what you think is expected of you by society. And that's exactly what I did. In my early 20s, I'd gone to university, I'd got my degree, and I found myself in a good job. It was paying well, I had a car and a computer through work, and I was on my way to New York with my boyfriend. And I remember thinking at the time, is this it? Is this what it comes to after putting all that hard work in? And I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I wasn't happy. But nonetheless, I kind of dug my heels in, and for the next couple of years, I worked really hard and I worked my way up to be a manager, managing a team of 10 people to do the job that I'd just done myself. Now, just because I was good at the role didn't mean that I was good at managing other people to be good at the role. I found the job really stressful, and after a couple of years of managing this team, I was so burnt out that I actually got signed off work at 24 years old with stress and depression. And that was the start of a downward spiral for me. I actually moved back home. I was in Bristol. I moved back home to Brighton with my parents. And at 26, I found myself completely lost, confused as to how I'd ended up here. I'd followed what I thought was expected of me by society, study hard, get good grades in your exams, get a good job, get money, and then that way you've kind of entered society, you're accepted. But that wasn't how it panned out for me. And I moved back home, as I said. I was very depressed, and I actually went down a path of addiction. For the next 12 to 15 years, I was addicted to cocaine, and my use got progressively worse. And I think this was because I wasn't in alignment with my true calling, and I hadn't done for so many years what made me happy. And I remember being a little girl, always dreaming of being a hairdresser, meeting different people every day, chatting to them, finding out about their lives, and using my creative skills, doing something that lights me up, and just having fun in my role. But obviously we all get programmed by society and by education and by teachers, by professionals and by our parents and what they expect of us. And so many people who have got dreams when they're younger don't actually follow what they really feel truly called to do, and do something that they feel is expected of them. And that's exactly what I did, and I didn't end up happy from it. Number 2, trust your intuition. Our intuition is that inner gut feeling. It's like our moral compass, our natural yay or nay that we're born with. And so many of us don't trust that gut feeling that we get in a certain situation, and we actually end up in perhaps situations that we wouldn't like to be. And for me, I can recall one time that particularly stands out when I was actually looking to go into modelling. I'd arranged to meet someone from contacting them online. I'd put out an advert to get some photographs done for my portfolio, and I'd arranged to meet this guy that sounded really professional, and we'd arranged to go for a coffee to discuss what our first photo shoot was going to be about. And I got free photographs, he got a free model, so it was a win-win situation, or so I thought. Now, I'd actually arranged to meet this guy at the train station. We were going to walk to the cafe together, and I remember feeling as I was crossing the road, he told me where he was going to be standing. I remember feeling in my gut, something is not right. It was like a pulling feeling in my stomach. And immediately I told myself, no, Kathy, this guy is a professional, go with the flow. I actually told myself, don't be mean, because from his appearance, he didn't look like what I expected a professional photographer to look like. But then my ego said to me, no, Kathy, don't judge this guy. He's a professional, and you're going to get some free photographs. So I went along with it. Now, to cut a long story short, after a few photography sessions, he'd actually asked me to become his muse, and I would need to sign a contract. And I'd gone to see a friend of mine, and I was having a discussion about it, and she said to me, Kathy, something here doesn't seem quite right. And he had said some things to me during a couple of photo shoots, which I couldn't quite put my finger on, but he'd gone out of his way to explain things which I hadn't even asked. Again, I ignored that gut feeling, and I still carried on with it. until I had a conversation with my friend, and she said, Kathy, something doesn't feel quite right, and I'm not comfortable with you sort of continuing to meet this guy. So I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, I haven't felt completely comfortable. I was happy with the photos, and we'd had, you know, some good conversation, but something didn't sit well with me, and I decided that afternoon to send him an email and say, actually, I'm not going to be continuing to work with you, so I'm not going to sign the contract, but thanks very much, and if I can't use the photos, then I completely understand. Well, I got an email back, which was a very strongly worded email. This guy was a very intelligent guy. He crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, and he basically gave me some kind of legal jargon as to, you know, basically why I couldn't, you know, step back and not continue to work with him. And I sent him another email and just said, you know, I don't appreciate the way that you've spoken to me. I don't want to work with you, and that's going to be that. Well, about half an hour later, I actually got a voicemail message from him, and I remember to this day what it sounded like. And no exaggeration, his voice was like, if you don't sign that contract by 3 p.m, I'm going to wreck your life. Not just your modelling career, but everything. And he went off on one. I actually decided to go to the police and make a statement and say that I didn't think this guy was a professional photographer. I'd done a little bit of research online and found that he didn't have like an identification number that you're expected to have. I looked at the photos, and even though they were okay, they weren't edited to a high quality, and I was concerned that other young girls might work with this guy and just maybe put themselves in an awkward situation. So I made a report to the police, and I can't remember the ins and outs, but for some reason he found out about it and then said to me that he contacted me on email again, saying that he was going to sue me for defamation of character, and I just felt the situation escalating. So the police actually said to me that I was being mean to the guy. You know, I didn't have a right to judge him. There was no reason that they had any kind of, you know, concerns, and that I should just leave it alone. So I thought, do you know what, I'm going to cut my losses. Maybe modelling isn't for me. Maybe this is a sign. So after that, I started pursuing a career in presenting, and part of that was radio presenting. And I was on my way to the studio, and I received a phone call from a telephone number that I didn't recognise. And I answered the call, and they said, hello, is that Catherine Sear? I said, yes. They said, hi, this is PC, and I don't quite remember the name, but do you know? And they said his name. And when they mentioned it, my heart sank. It was that feeling that I got when I first met the guy, and I didn't trust that inner gut feeling. And they said, can we meet with you? A girl has gone missing. And literally, I think I went into shock. I mean, I've got goosebumps now just saying it again. And basically what had happened is he, after me, had continued to work with other girls. It was about 3 months after I'd not seen him. Now, one girl, he pretended to be her and sent her photos abroad and was sort of making money off them. And the second girl, he actually, this is why the police were calling me, he actually kidnapped her. It was on the front of all the local newspapers where I live. And he'd tried to strangle her. He tried to smother her, and he tried to do something else. I don't remember the third one. But basically, this guy was not a very nice person, and he ended up going to jail for 13 years. I had to sit through a court case and hear all the different things that other girls had gone through. One girl had actually tried to commit suicide, and the girl who got kidnapped, she was younger than me and very naive. They went on the run, and she didn't eat, she didn't sleep, and she was just completely delirious. And we actually bonded, me and this girl, through this process. But the moral of the story is that had I gone with my gut feeling when I was first walking across the road to meet this guy, had I trusted what my inner intuition was trying to tell me, I would never have gone down that path. If there was even just one piece of advice that I could give my 20-year-old self, it would be trust your gut feeling, trust your inner intuition. It is there for a reason. It knows what is going to be right for you. And when you don't trust it, you actually lose a connection with it, and you can get yourself into some really sticky situations. So that's number 2. Number 3 is shine your light. And by that, I mean, don't live small. Don't put yourself in a box. Don't hide parts of you. Don't show some of you, but hide the bits of you that you feel that others aren't going to accept. Be all of you. Be every expression that you can be. And if people don't like it, that's on them, that's not on you. And again, I really relate to this because growing up, I dimmed my light. My sister was on the autistic spectrum but didn't get a diagnosis until she was 26. And all my life, things would come to me easily, no matter if it was academic, if it was artistic, if it was like physical. I always took to things really easily. I wasn't amazing at any one thing, but I was pretty much good at anything I tried. And I felt bad because things came slower to my sister. Her coordination wasn't there. She had, dyspraxia, which again, we didn't know till later in life. She had physical limitations, shall we say. And all my life, I felt sorry for my sister, and I felt guilty that things came to me easily. I also had quite a difficult relationship with my parents. We had a codependent relationship where I was pretty much the parent and the adult from a very young age. And I learned that when I am everything that I can be, and when I, do well at things, and when I'm happy and I'm in alignment and shining my light, other people get jealous, they get resentful, sometimes they can get angry and frustrated at me, and I then don't get to spend time with these people because they don't want to be around me because I trigger them. Well, if I could tell my younger self to ignore all of that, because when you don't shine your light and when you're not everything that you can be, you are not reaching those people in the world that need to see all of you and shine your light, so that you create a ripple effect and give them permission to do the same. You lead the way so that they can then step into their full expression and be their full selves. And had I known this earlier, I think my life, as I said before, would have been very different. They're my 3 things that I wish I knew when I was 20. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.